Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about TV, movies, comics, and all things geek. We're looking back at some of animation's most puzzling projects today. Thanks for listening. How did these get made? That's the question of the day today. This is an all-animation episode, but specifically we're looking back at some shows that when you look back at them, you're a little surprised that they were actually made. First, I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
This is Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
So there's a couple of ways to approach this, but, we were thinking about maybe there's a show based off of a toy or a game that didn't have an obvious built-in story, or there's a property that wasn't exactly kid-friendly to begin with, that sort of thing. That's the kind of shows that we're talking about. So we've assembled a list already and split them into categories. So we'll start with our first category, which is toys and games. And the show I'm going to throw out is Rubik the Amazing Cube from 1983.
Going back a ways.
Yes.
I remember watching Rubik the Amazing Cube.
Okay.
It was a Saturday morning show. Rubik was an alien, if I remember correctly. And it wouldn't be, they had some kind of magical power. It seemed like it wanted to be like E.T.
Right.
Because it had a lot of kids flying with bikes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those things where you had to solve the cube in order to make Rubik talk or use his powers.
Right. He was an inanimate, unsolved Rubik's Cube until you solved him, and then he came to life and did magic.
Yes.
Right.
Which I always thought was weird. The kids were always having to manipulate Rubik.
Right.
In order to get him to be to be able to communicate with him. And there was always the conceit or the trope of the episode was, Rubik was not just a cube, a fully solved cube.
Right. And this was before there were speed solvers. So this was a huge feat to even solve a Rubik's Cube back at this point in time.
Yes. It was not a matter of just taking the stickers off of one side and then replacing it with the stickers on another side. You actually had to solve the cube in order to get it to work. But I remember liking it. It was one of those. It was very much a 70s alien show where the alien was on the run and they had human help, and then that was the Incredible Hulk had Jack McGee, the investigative reporter, or the Phoenix, or one of those shows, or Starman that they adapted for TV, where every week they're a step ahead of getting caught. But this was a family that had a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that the villain, I can't remember the villain's name. You remember?
He was like a magician, right?
Yeah, he was a magician.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a magician. But another part of the show that stood out for me is the family.
Yeah.
Which was, it was ahead of its time. It was the Rodriguez's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason why this show jumped out to me, other than, a show about Rubik's Cube, was Menudo, which was popular in the theme song.
Right. Yes. The very popular boy band.
Get.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a get in 1983.
Absolutely.
Big time.
That's a get today.
Yeah.
Yes. Menudo did the theme. But yeah, you're right. I'd imagine it was the first. Wasn't the first with a Latin family as the lead?
Yeah. That I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were often trying to save their apartment building too from being foreclosed by an evil landlord.
Sounds right.
Yeah, again, ahead of its time. Pretty accurate.
I think that was a plot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the voice of Rubik himself,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember, but it was actor Ron Palio, who was Horseshack on Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yes, Mr. Kotter. Yes.
Mr. Kotter.
Yes.
Going way, way back to Nick at Night days for most people.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Clifton, for most people. That would have been Nick at Night days. But yeah, good old Horseshack. Now, he did that, and he also did, and I don't think this was on our list, but it's just a side note, was he did, if anyone's ever seen the Laverne and Shirley cartoon, which again, going way back to Nick at Night days.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was, when Laverne and Shirley were in the army. Anyone?
Oh, that one's vaguely familiar.
And he was an animated pig who was their drill sergeant.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really, really odd. But that's like the only other voice acting I think I can remember him doing.
It's one of those things. Listening to him though, I mean, like he's kind of perfect for voice acting.
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
Like just hearing Horseshack in my head. Like,
although in Rubik they do distort his voice, so it's like this weird little like distorted voice version of his. You can barely tell it's him,
right?
But he did do one episode of original Darkwing Duck show that is kind of a classic episode where he played Ordinary Guy.
Okay.
Which is an episode where Darkwing gets taken to another planet and thinks he's going to another planet to be like their savior. And then you find out that everyone on the planet has superpowers except for one person,
right?
Who's Ordinary Guy. And like that guy is sick of living on that planet because his whole life revolves around superheroes saving him from things. And because he's the only non-superpowered person, so he gets Darkwing Duck, who has no powers, to replace him as Ordinary Guy on this planet full of superheroes. It's a classic episode, but that was also the same actor.
I saw, looking into this show, that there was like a quote I saw about him where he was talking about recording Rubik, and he said that basically when he was in the booth, he recorded his lines really slow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like slower than natural, and then they just sped it up as part of the distortion also.
Right.
Which I thought was like in the 80s. I'm like, okay. Like that sounds laborious.
Mm-hmm. It only lasts a season, right? Only like 13 episodes, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it only went 13 episodes, and you know, on Wikipedia they have like all the titles of all 13, and Rubik was in the title for all 13 episodes except for one.
Okay.
Episode 12 was called Superpower Lisa.
Okay.
Which I don't know what was so special about it, but right. All the other ones, like Rubik is in the title, so it's like Time Machine Rubik.
Right.
Like Rubik and the Pooch Nappers, or Honolulu Rubik is my favorite. That's my favorite one. Like,
well, you got to, they're trying to unload Rubik's Cubes at the same time.
Yeah.
While you're watching the show, so you're hoping as a kid, I guess, to solve the cube and have an alien.
Did they need help at that point, though? I mean,
I guess
you tell me.
No, I mean, it was, there were tons of Rubik's cubes, and then there were all the knockoffs that were pretty much the same thing, except like a different shade of red or a different shade of green,
right?
Or a different shape,
yeah,
like a figure eight thing, like that flat figure eight thing you'd have to solve,
or the
I do not envy the writers tasked with this and the producers to be like, we want to make a show out of this, right? This puzzle game, and it's like,
right?
Like, what do you got? And I'm like, I'd be like,
this is probably one of those shows where you crack a six pack with a bunch of people, and you write an episode, and it's suddenly, Honolulu Rubik. So
right.
What's funny is like how much this still happens now with things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because I listened to the Script Notes podcast with Craig Mazin and John August about film screenwriting, and they talk about projects where someone has a thing that's got some awareness, like it's got some built-in following. It could be this random thing, and they'll bring in a writer and be like, pitch us a story on this because we need to make Slinky into a movie.
Right.
So what you got for the Slinky movie?
Right.
And that was always their go-to example, was the Slinky movie, until they recently found out that it's literally in development.
Oh wow.
Like, is the Slinky movie. So they're like, oh, now we have to find some other like completely useless thing that some executive would say, make a story out of this thing.
Wow.
And they've not been able to replace Slinky yet, as an example. But this is definitely one of those, because we also like movies. Like Battleship, the movie, sort of. And,
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it happens.
Yep.
Still.
Oh, Battleship, the movie.
Which seems like it would have been straightforward, but I guess not.
That was when like Liam Neeson, like that was when it started, when Liam Neeson he would just do anything.
Sure.
Like almost like he was just happy to be working.
Yeah.
Which is weird. All right. So I'm going to skip ahead now to 1996.
Wow.
And we had this was Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. So this is on this list because, like, Mortal Kombat notably is the game with all the blood and guts and gore.
Right.
Fatalities.
All the fatalities.
Yeah, all the like how do you do that as a kid's show?
Mm-hmm.
Parents everywhere forbade their kids from ever playing.
Right.
So this was after the movie, though, right?
Yes. Yeah, this would be... So this one coincided a little bit with Mortal Kombat 3, because I remember Sub-Zero had the mask off at this point, like the eye scar and stuff like that. So it was the
Okay.
Mortal Kombat 3 design. But yeah,
Right.
it would have been like what, I guess a year after the movie.
Yeah, probably went in development right when the movie was coming out.
Yeah.
And the movie was rated R too, right?
I don't think so. I think it was PG-13. I don't remember if there
Okay.
was like a rated R cut of it or anything.
Right.
There should have been if they didn't.
With more fatalities.
This is one though that like it's odd, but I get it.
Mhm.
Right? You know, I mean, like colorful characters, certainly even though it was a game with, like I said, like all the blood and guts, like it was certainly popular with younger kids,
Sure.
you know, like junior high age. I mean, that's how old I was at least when this stuff was coming out. So I do get kind of catering to that in some way, and it does kind of seem, I think, like do we need all of that stuff? the like all the fatalities. Like what if basically we're not killing people off every episode and we can actually build stuff with them?
Right.
Then what's the point?
Right.
Sure. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see someone tear someone's spine out on a Saturday morning. That's
Of
Right.
course.
I was surprised that it was USA Network. I kind of forgot that USA had any kind of. What else did they
Yeah,
have?
they got into a Saturday morning block in the 90s. They'll
Mhm.
come up, I think, with some of our later stuff we talk about in this episode. But
okay.
yeah, they tried to go in and skew that way on a lot of their stuff for
Gotcha.
Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
There's a couple on this list from that time, but for me, this stuff was on Sundays for me, which is cool. Like I like the fact that you got cartoons twice both days of the weekend
Okay.
was
Not
really
me. I went
awesome.
to church every Sunday. I was in church every Sunday, so I only got the one day, unfortunately. I missed out.
For me, that'll come up for one that we talk about later.
Okay.
Okay.
But on my end at least. But yeah, but this is one that I got into for a little bit. And like I said, like it was just fun to have cartoons on Sunday. But the style of this one was kind of interesting too. It was kind of a Bruce Timmey style, but with less detail,
Okay.
if you can imagine that. You know what I mean? Like,
So a looser Bruce Tim.
yeah.
Okay.
Like
A
a
little
more
bit.
streamlined, like a
A
more
l-
minimalist Bruce
Yeah.
Timm.
Yeah.
A more-
More minimalist. Background's not quite as attention grabbing.
Something easily
Okay.
replicated over and over again by someone in the studio far, far away.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I just think, I mean, did they have at least like friendship or babalities, any of that stuff?
No, not at all.
No?
No, I don't think so.
But I remember it being a little bit more mature. Like,
How so?
the movie when it came out, it was PG-13, but for this, it just felt like it was on a higher level. Like they wanted an ongoing, like plots or subplots that went on with other characters, things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like your typical one and done and on to the next, lesson or whatever you want to call it.
It definitely took itself seriously. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
something.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
There was no and knowing is half the battle, anything like that.
No, no one
Right.
put a big
No.
old rainbow of friendship up. Nothing like
No.
that. No.
Yeah, no. Nothing like that.
Gotcha.
Nothing of like what to do if you get stuck in a refrigerator or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah,
G.I.
yeah.
Joe did.
Yes.
That was a G.I. Joe one. I remember that one.
Yeah, I know. That's one of my favorite ones from the
It's
G.I.
like,
Joe ones. Yeah.
like, how often is that going to happen
Right,
to me?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like quicksand. It's a big word.
Yeah.
So no one's talking about doing PSAs talking about pork chop sandwiches
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But it did have a crossover.
with
Several other shows on the USA block. I remember. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it did. I think it was the 9th or 10th episode, which they try to weave it into other cartoons during their like block or programming block.
Like what?
Yeah. I think at the time Street Fighter.
Hmm.
Was
Okay. I
on
was
that-
going to say it better have been Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Right.
And two other ones.
I don't know. I would think that would be a much bigger deal, like it knowing that it crossed over with something else that's as close to it as it is, like Street Fighter.
Yeah. I never knew about that. Man, had I known, like I would have like asked my brother to tape that for me. Like-
Yeah, it was like I think if not mistaken, it was like a 4-part thing in which you had to watch everything, all of them, to get the whole story down packed. But it's just a little vague as to what that story was.
Like a Pyramid
It's
of
been a
Darkness
while.
type thing, or
Yeah, but
Okay.
but it showed up in other cartoons.
I'm
okay.
YouTubing this tonight when we're done.
Yeah.
Was it only Street Fighter, or was it something else?
No, it was Street Fighter. It was Wing Commander.
Mhm.
What?
And Savage Dragon.
The Wing Commanders come up 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? And Savage Dragon.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah, ahead of its time.
Well, since you brought it up, we might as well talk about Street Fighter then, which was also in that block.
Yes, it
Mhm.
was.
And this was how I found that
Yeah.
Sunday morning block, because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, Street. So I was a Street Fighter kid. I wasn't a Mortal Kombat guy.
Right.
I was a Street Fighter guy.
And Street Fighter did not have the like parental outrage that
No.
Mortal Kombat
No.
had. It was much tamer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, there was no spine ripping. There was no showing someone their
Right.
heart. There was no,
Right.
none of that stuff.
No throwing people off into a pit of spikes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
And then the Mortal Kombat of the time compared to Mortal Kombat now is quaint.
Right.
What they
Right.
did back then is it's Saturday morning cartoon fare compared to what they do
Right.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I guess those couple of red pixels are blood.
I think, yes.
I guess that's a spine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he have a packet of ketchup in his pocket? What just happened?
Right.
Right.
But I remember, though, that Street Fighter show, I remember it looked better than the Mortal Kombat show. Like, I remember, like even I don't even know how old I was at that point. I guess I was 12, maybe 13. Even then, I
Mhm.
was like, this looks like a more expensive show,
Right.
you know?
Although the voice cast for Mortal Kombat is stacked. I'm looking at right now.
Oh, really?
It's a pretty good cast.
Oh yeah, good
It
cast.
was some of the standouts: Clancy Brown,
Yeah, Clancy was on it.
Okay.
Olivia Diabo,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cree Summer,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Luke Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Perry.
Luke Perry, yep. He did
Yeah.
some animation voices back then. And this was right at the time of 90210.
Who was he playing?
Sub-Zero.
He was Sub-Zero?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I can hear it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's funny. I feel like it's a who's who of who would be on Mortal
Yes.
Kombat just on their voices.
Right.
Like all of them could be like villains.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that is a villainous cast.
Yeah.
That's a villainy sounding cast. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think anybody was like that on Street Fighter.
No.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to move on then. So we're going to move on to category number 2, which we have dubbed as sports and sports entertainment.
Mm.
So I guess since we got sports entertainment, we'll start with Hulk Hogan Rockin' Wrestling, which I guess is the one that everybody would expect hearing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I was not quite into wrestling yet at this point, and also probably a little too young for this show.
Right.
So I did not watch a whole lot of it.
Okay.
It probably hit me like right when I was right at that age to be getting into wrestling.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I
That's-
did watch it.
that-
Like it was all the talk of the playground in my day.
No.
Wrestling
I was
in
there
general,
with
or
you.
this show was?
This show and wrestling in
Yeah.
general.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was at the height of Hogan's
Yep.
WWF fame,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
or E, should I
Andre
say?
the Giant was still around. Macho
Mhm.
Man was still around.
Yeah.
Rowdy
Yeah.
Roddy Piper was still around.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like it was the WrestleMania 3 era.
it's a good WrestleMania. It's a good one.
I feel like it was around that time.
Yeah. Okay. Like, yeah, and I know like Captain Lou like was in there
Mhm.
Mhm.
and stuff
Yeah.
too. And so did these guys voice themselves, or were they voiced by like Michael Bell?
They were voiced by the stars they played, unless the only time they were voiced by the actual stars were if there's a live action version of them.
Right. They cut away to like a live bit with them,
Oh, okay.
like fully in costume, like fully in their gear.
Okay.
Doing like a backstage segment
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
of the
Okay,
cartoon.
gotcha. All right,
Yeah.
so Hogan's like, let me tell you something, Mean Gene, like that, like
Right.
One of
Yeah.
those.
you know.
Yep.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, they were grouped up differently. They're like the faces and the heels, and Piper was like the leader of the heels.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Well, yeah,
And-
at that time for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
And there were only a couple women wrestlers at that time.
Yes.
So, like, I think Fabulous Moolah
Yeah.
was in the heels.
Okay.
And I can't remember who was in the face
Sure.
team.
It was Wendy
Is it
something.
Wendy Richter? Probably.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I would say yeah.
Man, Moolah at that point, it's like was wrestling like 20 years at that point.
Yeah.
Like then she was wrestling 20 years.
Yeah.
Good grief. So the surprising thing to me is that like there hasn't really been much of a push to recreate something like this.
No.
You know what I mean? Like I know WWE has dipped their toes into animation within the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years or so, but it's been, you know, catering to their audience now. It's more like it's more like adult humor kind of cartoon stuff. There's nothing really like aimed at kids trying to get kids to be like a fan early.
Right.
Which is also going to be like a reoccurring thing. I feel like is probably going to come up in this episode.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Most of the recent stuff has been on like WWE Network, right?
Yeah.
Like more Family Guy style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Except for like their like the mashup stuff that they did with like the Scooby-Doo movie that they did with Warner Brothers and the Flintstones one.
That. They did a couple of those.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Vietti directed them.
Yeah.
Because one of them has a cameo of the Young Justice Girls watching WrestleMania.
Yeah. Those are fun, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
They're like the old Scooby movies, but all the wrestlers are in it.
Yeah, it's a good deal. So, anybody remember Pro Stars?
Yes.
As a kid?
Yes.
Yeah, I do, but I hated that show.
I only remember it by name as a kid.
Yeah, I remember
really?
on, but it was not a show to like, it was not appointment television at that point by any stretch.
I only hated it because of when it was put on. It was like the last show of the animation block. So
you knew the day was over.
Yeah. That's what made me mad. Not so much the show. I never watched the show.
You had to go outside early and play.
Exactly. Or
like, I don't want to go outside yet.
Yeah, it's either I sit through this or I have to go outside. I'll sit through this, I guess.
Yeah. Or it gave me indication that I needed to finish my chores because I've just been watching cartoons all day or whatever.
Right.
Well, okay, so we should explain it a little bit. So Pro Stars, you know, was a show that had Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Bo Jackson.
Yes.
As
it's coming back.
As like a quasi like superhero team. Like they fought crime and saved people.
Right.
But it was like the threats were kind of low level stuff. It was like they're fighting like, you know, people whose schemes were like to pollute. It was very like very special episode, almost all of them. Like
Captain Planet.
Yeah, like Captain Planet. Like we're fighting environmental threats and they're like in like youth gang prevention and stuff like that.
Wayne Gretzky out there fighting crime.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And not even like in a cool way, if I remember. It wasn't like he, you know, used a hockey stick or slap shot at somebody. If I'm remembering correctly.
Well, they had like an old lady that they called Mom, which looking back at it, like it made me think of Edna from The Incredibles. But she was like their Q.
Oh, okay.
And designed like their gadgets and stuff like that. And so.
Did she give him like special like hockey puck bombs and stuff?
Yeah, like boomerang hockey pucks. And stuff like that. And like
so he was like sports master. He was like sports master.
He was on rollerblades because there's not ice everywhere.
Jeez.
Which was the other thing. But yeah, and then like Michael Jordan had like boosters in his shoes and stuff like that.
He doesn't need
it's
that.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he doesn't
need that at all.
Wow.
That's an insult.
Right. It was good, man. I used to love this show as a kid, though.
Oh, did you really?
Super excited about it. Yeah. I used to love it. I had it bad for this show.
Bo Jackson. Was it Bo Jackson?
I did, but I was always like...
Because he played two sports.
Exactly.
He played two whole sports.
No, you're right. That's a big part of it, because they had everybody like represented like one of the big sports. So it was like Jordan basketball, Wayne Gretzky hockey, but Bo Jackson, they got both out of the way.
Yep.
He was a dual threat.
Yep. Yeah, and it also had like the cutaway stuff, Frank, that you were talking about. So like they had different people voicing them,
Mm-hmm.
but then they would show up in like their cutaway segments, like at the which looking back at it and seeing people talk about it online and stuff, like you could tell like they weren't filmed together.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't.
They're just shot in a way that they're not in the same location.
I didn't realize that until I looked that up. I was like, oh wow. So that didn't. I mean, again, I didn't pay much attention to the show because it was it wasn't the greatest show in the world, I thought at the time.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that they were clearly not together, not even on the same soundstage, and then the fact that Michael Jordan wasn't anywhere near either one of them.
Right.
Kind of funny.
Yeah. I don't know why I liked it so much, but there's something about it excited me. I don't know why.
Maybe you just thought they were superheroes and you didn't realize.
It could have, maybe. No,
Yeah.
I definitely knew who Michael Jordan was at that point.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it didn't help that they were at the height of their careers when they made that cartoon. So
Right.
I understand why you would love it.
Right.
Apparently, Marv Albert was involved in the cartoon.
Yes, isn't that
Really?
awesome?
Which doesn't age well.
Yes. No. But doesn't that crack you up though? Thinking it like,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
of course he's there.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. Not good. Not good. Not a good look.
Makes it very hard to find.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, these things are such a time capsule. I love it. All right. So, keeping with sports, we're going to go to NFL Rush Zone.
Yeah. This one I'd never heard anything about.
Really?
I had no clue this existed before I tried to look it up and do the research on it.
Yeah.
It just sounds really like.
It sounds like a practical joke, right? It sounds like I'm ribbing you like in a text.
Yeah, it just sounded very much of, well, he has to go to different stadiums to protect shards of something.
Yeah.
That's the basic premise, right? He's a guardian of something.
Yeah, so basically there's like a Dragon Ball like MacGuffin that they called like shards of the core, right?
Okay.
That was like they were all housed, like all the shards were housed in all of the 32 team stadiums.
Okay.
Just cause
Just
like
'cause.
whoever got it, I guess.
Where else would you put him?
Mhm.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
It's buried in the end zone of Giant Stadium with Jimmy Hoffa.
That's not that. That's not the core. That's not it. No.
Jimmy Hoffa is one of the shards.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the kid was talking to Jimmy Hoffa, that'd be pretty impressive. Like the animated series.
No,
But
he's one of the shards. That makes more sense.
So this one ran within the last decade.
Okay.
This was even a more recent one, which
Yeah.
is weird because they kind of shied away from this type of thing,
Mhm.
I thought,
Right.
for the cartoons. But apparently they're still going to that well.
Yeah.
But like, what would be the hook for like a kid to watch this? I don't understand. Like, is it action adventure and then it just happens to have an NFL backdrop?
I think it's an NFL backdrop that happens to be action adventure. I look at it that way. Like it's the other way around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess, but it's almost like, oh, what's a good example? It's kind of like doing a show based on a soft drink that happens to be that happens to be about fighting aliens, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it makes no sense to me. Why do you even need the NFL involved in the show? Because it sounds like it's a show that could go to visit stadiums looking for shards. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like NFL's audience is getting older. Like they're getting less young people into it, and perhaps have been for a while now, getting less younger fans to football. And so I feel like this was an NFL initiative. Like they went out being like, how can we get kids?
Mhm.
How can we get kids to like football? And then went and started pitching this.
I think so too.
Okay.
I think that's 100% it, Clifton. Also, I mean, it just like it screams so much like an executive saying like we need to get kids into football younger. It like and it's just
There's no aspect of football. That's the other thing.
No, I know. Like,
but to me that reason makes more sense just because it's a through line.
Right.
But what you should be asking, Frank, is how long did this run for?
That's the crazy thing.
I saw how long. That was as stunning as it was to me, Tommy, that it existed. The fact that it lasted as long that it stunned me even further.
Yes. Right. Yes.
How long?
3 seasons.
Tell 'em.
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
Yeah. 3 seasons.
Yep.
You couldn't get 3 seasons out of Rubik, but you got 3 seasons out of this. This is an even thinner plot.
65 episodes.
Oh my god.
Good
It's
God.
just like an NFL logo pasted on Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Yes.
65
That's-
episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Think about that. This has more episodes than Batman Beyond.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, it helps to have that NFL backing.
I guess.
So,
Yeah.
I
No,
like
you're
to
going to
see.
keep making it. No, you're going to keep making it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is not to spoil it for anyone who wants to watch this show, but
Uh-oh.
apparently season 3 ends with a cliffhanger that never gets resolved because they were talking about doing
no.
this. They were talking about doing
no.
a season 4, but it never came to fruition for whatever reason.
For
I'm sure the
whatever
NFL was
reason.
busy with some other controversy.
Should let him wrap it up in a movie.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Let's start a
A
hashtag.
live action movie at that.
Live
Yeah.
action. But do
But
you
yeah.
see who was a part of it? Like who were minor characters in the show?
No,
Norv Turner.
stop it.
And listen to the list: Sean Payton,
Oh, wow.
Mike Tomlin, John Madden,
Wow.
Michael Strahan,
Jeez.
Jerry Jones,
Oh.
Shannon Sharp, Marcus Allen, Brian Dawkins, Steven Jackson, Larry Fitzgerald, Eli Manning, and Drew Brees. All at one point
Wow.
were part of this show, or at least
You can get Peyton Manning and Tony Romo easy now if you want to
Yeah,
bring
did
it
they
back.
just not ask Peyton Manning? Because he would have done it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Well, that's a little better. At least they had people that were actually part of the NFL in it.
Right.
But still, I would
Hey,
imagine.
coaches in it. My God.
They had owned.
Why wouldn't every episode be, hey man, what's that kid doing over there?
Yeah.
What's that kid doing over in the end zone? I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's play ball. I don't know. I mean, I would think every exchange of every episode would be like, why are you here, kid?
Yeah.
But I mean, 65 episodes, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty good. And a fourth
No.
that was playing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great run for a show right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Well, Infinity Train's not getting 65 episodes.
jeez.
A majority of what we already spoke about only got 13.
Yeah.
Wow. That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
What do I know?
All right. Okay. So we got one more in this category.
Okay.
Mighty Ducks.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Little. It's kind of perfect now because Disney Plus has got the the sequel series out,
Mhm.
Mighty Ducks Game Changers. But this was a cartoon. Again, I can kind of see it because at the time, like Disney had already 2 super popular shows centered around ducks,
Mm.
Right.
right? With DuckTales and Darkwing Duck. So, it's just natural. Okay, let's do a Mighty Ducks hockey show with actual ducks and they're fighting aliens or whatever.
Yeah. So what's weird about this one though is that the Mighty Ducks started as a movie for like a kids movie franchise about kids playing hockey,
Yeah.
and then became a real actual NHL hockey team when the Anaheim team
Right.
was formed.
Right.
And then this show isn't about any of that. This show is about like fictional alien ducks fighting a fictional alien war because of course, why
Yeah.
not?
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh.
The only thing that I think is close is that it's set in Anaheim.
Right.
Okay. Okay. It is. Okay.
Well, that and their alter ego is the hockey team. That's their alter
Right.
ego.
But a duck hockey team, not
Yes.
a people hockey
Yeah,
team.
yeah, not a real hockey
There's
team.
a distinction.
Yeah, a duck hockey. Yes.
Right. Which is weird that they're called the Mighty Ducks and they're ducks, because that would just be like the New York Humans playing
Right.
football.
Yeah. yeah.
This, I
Good
mean, but
point.
this is again like this one of all the ones that we've talked about, I think like is the easiest to do.
Mhm.
Right? It's like
Right.
it's just DuckTales is popular, Darkwing Duck is popular, right? Like we
Yep.
could do that kind of slant. Like they're the hockey team, but they're fighting crime, and it's fun. But it's like the idea just seems so like it's tortured.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it's just the idea of let's trade off the idea of the popularity of Mighty Ducks, and then let's not do Mighty Ducks though. and like you said, our other 2 duck shows are popular, so they're not set in the same universe, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I've never seen the Mighty Ducks live action, much less the animated.
Oh, really? First one's great.
That's what I hear. That's what everyone tells me, but I've never seen it. I'm aware of it. I know it's placed in people's heart and in the culture, but I've never actually seen it, so I don't really know.
It's got little Joshua Jackson and little Foggy Nelson from Daredevil, from Netflix Daredevil is on the team.
Okay.
He's the goon.
Yeah.
He's the goon in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that too. It kind of reminded me of what's the I'm not sure it's around the same time. What was the Looney Tunes like live, not live action, but like the superhero kind of show? What,
The Lunatics
The
Attack.
Lunatics. Yes.
That's it kind of reminds me of that. Am I wrong to think that?
No, you're right.
No, you're right.
Like, I think
Yeah.
Lunatics came after Mighty Ducks and was probably like seeing it and being like, "Oh, let's do that too."
Okay.
Oh man, Lunatics. I forgot all about that.
Great show.
Lunatics Unleashed. That's what it was
not,
called.
that's not on this list, but that should have been on this list somewhere towards the end. Like,
Yes.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, I just remember how mad people got about that. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
They did.
We'll do Lunatics Unleashed if we have time at the.
No, we'll just do a spotlight on it. That's all. We'll do a spotlight. But but yeah, that's what whenever I hear about that show, I thought about, well, it's kind of reminded me of that thing. But like I said, I've never actually seen either one, so it was kind of a cool. I like the idea of it being an animated show about the Mighty Ducks, even though it's not the Mighty Ducks per se. But
Yeah.
you know,
No, look, I mean, we're all having fun, like, making jokes, like, I feel bad because I feel like none of these ideas would be an easy one to do.
right?
Outside of like I said, like Mighty Ducks, because of the other track record, had they just set it in the other universe, I think that it would have been easier for them. But all these other shows, like just thinking about like how to build around it, like this all sounds super hard.
right.
So all right, let's move on. So category number 3. So this is cartoons made from mature comics.
All right.
Okay. So, because it came up earlier, we're going to start with Savage Dragon, which was also on that Sunday morning USA lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So, Clifton, you had brought up Church. This is where it comes up for me. I had so desperately wanted to watch this show.
Okay.
But this show came on at 10:30 and we always had church at 11. So we just had to leave when this was starting. So I've never seen anything for this show
Okay.
to this day. And I'll even say this too, like even finding the opening, even online, that was hard.
Okay.
Like you can't just type it into YouTube and it pops up. Like I had to go outside of YouTube to find, like it took a little bit of tracking down to find the intro for this, which I finally did see. And it's a pretty cool intro.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. Yeah. I thought it looked cool, but I don't know what you guys had thought.
I've never seen it. I mean, I've read the comic when it first came out. So I read like the mini and then the actual first couple issues of it, and I always liked Savage Dragon as a concept, but I never stuck with it. So I don't know. It was one of those that I might have known that it existed and was like, I'm good. I just didn't watch it. I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah, this one, I mean, Savage Dragon was one of the launch titles for Image Comics
Mm-hmm.
in the early 90s. This one was from Eric Larson, who had gained fame at Marvel for, what was his predominant thing at Marvel? Hulk?
He did.
It was Spider-Man. He came on Spider-Man after McFarlane left.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Savage Dragon was his creation. I think I was assuming Hulk because Savage Dragon reminds me of Hulk because it's a big green guy,
Right,
like a big green monster fighting crime. But oddly enough, Savage Dragon cartoon is currently on Peacock.
Yes.
You can watch all of it now.
Really?
I've watched 3 episodes of it, and that's all I've made it through so far. Our engineer watched 3 episodes of it, and that's all he got before he gave up.
That's right.
That's where I am now. We'll see if I go back after these 3. I was just kind of curious to see it after all these years.
Right.
It's kind of weird, the voice casting in Savage Dragon, because nobody sounds like nobody's voicing who you would think they're voicing. Like the guy they have voicing Savage Dragon is doing like a pretty straightforward voice, but he's also the actor who voiced Winnie the Pooh through most of the 80s and 90s.
Really?
Jim Cummings. Yes.
Yep. Jim Cummings.
It's Jim Cummings is the voice for Savage Dragon. And he's playing like it's I think kind of doing probably more of his normal voice, but like you see that Savage Dragon, and like now, if this show had been made anytime in the last 20 years, it would be Kevin Michael Richardson, of course.
Oh yeah,
would be Savage Dragon, and that's not
that.
the voice that comes out of Savage Dragon.
I have a question. Since you watched some of it. So was the intro, which again, like I said, like I was actually a little impressed watching the intro earlier today. Was that an example of the intro animation being super, super like better looking than the show itself?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Was it okay? I mean,
the show isn't the worst of its time. Like the animation in the show actually isn't that bad.
Right.
But it's one of those times when they, gave some extra money.
Yeah.
They had some extra money in their pocket and were like, spend this on the intro.
No. Yeah, I'm not I'm not bemoaning the show or anything like that. It's just like that's a standard thing that we see all the time, is that a lot of times, the intro itself tends to be made by a studio that's a little bit more polished.
Right.
And even sometimes the pilot itself is sometimes better looking than what the rest of the show is. But I mean, you can look at the 80s Ninja Turtles and see that the opening is amazing looking. And then the animation for the show itself is not it's not that.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, like I just saw somebody recently posted the Thundercats intro, which I hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah.
And like that Thundercats intro, the animation is so complex and insane.
I love
it. Especially the Chitara running through like crowds and like perspective changing and stuff. And they pointed out that was the intro for Thundercats was done by the studio that eventually became Ghibli.
Wow. That makes so much sense.
That's not I mean, the posing in the Thundercats, this is animation geek, like pretty deep in it. But I mean, like Lionel's doing a backflip, and the number of poses he's in that backflip is crazy. Like,
it's a great open. So good.
Oh, it's so awesome.
I find it funny that they never changed that intro, because you can't do better than that.
No.
Right.
Yeah. Like, characters change in the show, themes are slightly different, but I would labor someone to make a better intro for that show than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like Clifton was saying, the idea of, they spend all that money on the intro or the pilot or whatever. It's kind of like having a comic on the rack with a really great cover. Like, I have to have that. And then as soon as you get inside, you're like, oh.
Yeah. Another sidebar, like quick example of that's really good is, have you guys ever seen the X-Men intro in Japan?
Right.
For the American cartoons. So the X-Men show that we all saw as kids in Japan got like an anime intro.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable looking.
Right. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
It is so awesome. And I remember thinking, I'm like, man, how disappointed were those kids when that intro is over?
Yeah. Every Japanese child watching is like, oh, as soon as the show starts.
Yeah.
But looking at the cast, like you're saying, it's a pretty good voice cast.
In Savage Dragon, it's a lot of animation mainstays.
You
A
got
lot of good people.
And Renee Bergeron is Horde, Dorian Harewood.
Right.
He was a pretty big actor. Did he was in the Jesse Owens story in the early 80s.
Right. And I think Zach would mention, when I was talking to Zach before this about Savage Dragon at one point, Zach was like, he could have been Savage Dragon. I was like, he's in the show, but he's not Savage Dragon.
That would be great. Yeah. He would have been great at that too. I think that's a good
that was so weird. That was so funny. Cause Clifton we were texting, he was telling me what he watched it. And I was like, what would have been good in the day? This guy. And I was like, Dorian Haywood. And Clifton's like, he's in the show. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
There's a better Savage Dragon in the room?
And they're going to go with Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
But like Dave Coulier, Michael Dorn, Mark Hamill, Robert Picardo, Cree Summer, Paul Williams,
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
That's a lot of good ones.
You got a pretty good, like you said, a lot of mainstays from animation, a lot of good voices. So it's a shame.
It's just the matchups of voices to characters is the weird thing. Like, they're all good people, but the voices coming out of the characters are not what you expect.
I wonder who their voice director was.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But I remember, like I said, I read the comic, but never ever saw the series.
And these weren't like hard, mature comics, but the Image comics were definitely the quote unquote extreme of the time. Like, they were definitely aiming for like older teenagers in their comics to be like, we're not your father's comics. This isn't the Silver Age. And we're trying to be extreme, but they weren't like full on. They weren't Vertigo.
No.
Right.
They just wanted to be a step beyond what they were allowed to do at like Marvel. That's basically what they were aiming for. So the stories they would tell if they were unfettered by the chains that they had on them at Marvel or whatever they're,
So along those lines, same time slot at USA Sunday morning. Again, we got a Wildcats cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which was, this is one I was into. Again, this was that rat bridge in the intro though, man, that's no picnic to sit through. I'll say that. But no, like I was, for at the time I'm whatever 12, and I'm like, oh, it's them, like they're ripping off X-Men, which I liked a lot at the time. But
right,
I happily, like, there was a point where I was getting excited to, like, this was becoming appointment television for me as a kid.
Okay.
You're 12. You're the perfect age to think Grifter's awesome.
No, of course.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're there's no begrudging you for thinking that, obviously. Because I mean, I read all the comics that led up to it. I read Wildcats a little bit longer because I like Jim Lee. But no, I don't think I think I've seen the intro for this. I don't think I've seen the actual episode of it as well.
It was funny to see voodoo in a cartoon aimed at children.
Right.
Yes, the exotic dancer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
and I can't remember how they explained that in the cartoon. I did recently come across some episodes of the Wildcats cartoon, I think on Tubi.tv, the free streaming site.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're still there currently, but they were not long ago. And I was like, I got to watch one of these. And then I watched one of those.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, Clifton, it says that her profession is never mentioned.
Okay.
And she is not wearing her first costume from the comics.
Right.
So that's, I guess, how they got around it. Was like,
she's in the jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's in the jumpsuit costume.
Yeah.
But Zealot's still in like the bikini.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a fun show. I don't think that, I don't know that I saw it in order or anything. I just was sort of, whatever episode was on was the one I caught, But yeah. No, it was a good time. I thought it was a good Sunday morning show, like I said.
Yeah. I mean, again, another one that ran only like 13 episodes, right?
I actually don't know.
No, it did. Was
it really only 13? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little surprising to me because I remember this one being semi-popular, not just me. I remember like going to school and like there were other kids I knew that were into it.
Right.
But what do I know though? You know what I mean? Like NFL Rush Zone, which some of us had never heard of, got 65.
No.
So
yeah, no clue.
So okay, so we're running a little low on time here. So we got Swamp Thing. If we want to run through that one really quick.
Sure.
And that one was predominantly a Vertigo title by
right.
the time the cartoon came about. So it definitely was skewing for a more mature audience.
Right.
From the comic, the source material. And then they make the kids show out of it. What was the theme song to the...
It was like Wild Thing, but with Swamp Thing.
Right, with Swamp Thing. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clever.
Yeah, it was.
That is what I was thinking.
Did you guys watch that when it was on?
I remember I remember there being a toy line for it.
Okay.
And I remember the time, like Swamp Thing at the time, I had not read, any of the early stuff. The House of, was beginning from House of Mystery or even the Alan Moore stuff at that point. But I knew more about Swamp Thing like from the movies. And I say movies because there were 2 of them. And I think there was like a TV movie when they did, or maybe they did the live action series, but.
Yeah, I think the animated show was around the time of the USA live action series.
But I remember at the time it was they didn't like, it was the was it the Animan or the Uniman or something like that, and it was supposed to be arcane, and it was supposed to be like a lot of the animals or a lot of like the quote unquote villains for the show were like more grotesque than Swamp Thing was.
Right.
Even like in the toy line as well. So it was one of the things that always stood out to me. But again, I remember the theme of, Swamp Thing, you make my heart sing or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it was You Are Amazing.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's just odd that they would, they would aim this thing that it's not really, definitely not. I mean, if you're reading the Alan Moore stuff, it's definitely not for kids.
Right.
And the early stuff it's all horror based anyway. It's all supposed to be macabre and,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very weird choice for
Like the original comic stuff was what, Len Wein and
Mhm.
and then Bernie Wrightson was
Yeah.
the
Bernie
artist.
Wrightson, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had either Rick Veitch or Todd Levin on the Alan Moore stuff for the most of it.
Yeah.
So Alfredo Alcala.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was a comic character when this was on as a kid, because I thought that, because I had just known the movies and stuff. I'd never seen them, but I just known that, and I thought, I'm like, oh, they just did a cartoon off of that movie.
Right.
I had no idea that he had been a comic book character at that point. 15 years?
Yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Probably, no, maybe even 20 by that point.
Okay.
Yeah, probably about 20. But yeah, weird choice.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's not, I mean, like the last thing he might have shown up was, I know, he's in Justice League Dark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also in Justice League Action when Mark Hamill did the voice for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, he's been popping up a lot. He's spoiler for Batman Harley Quinn, the animated movie. He pops up there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, so there's some people at Warner Animation, like, excited to use him.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we got two more to get through in this category, which we'll do quick, and they're kind of, so it's the Max and Spawn.
Okay.
And we just wanted to include it because, it is wrapped up in that mature comics thing. I mean, these were certainly, not aimed like Silver Age books or anything like that. But the difference was that these cartoons were not made for kids,
No.
which we should point out. So, I mean, that is a cool thing there, at least, that it's still trying to serve the same audience as the books, just in animated form.
Yeah, they both ended up, I think, at the right homes for them at the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say. It seemed to be like there was kind of a gold rush on any of the Image books
Mm-hmm.
in comics for somebody wanting to get some kind of rights, animation usually, to them. So I think Max and Spawn kind of got caught up in that gold rush too. Spawn ended up at HBO and is currently on HBO Max, I think, because our engineers is watching it currently.
Mm.
The Max show was produced for MTV.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if it's available anywhere now. Definitely mature themes in both of them. Max especially is like a surreal take on some psychological trauma, and honestly was a weird thing to be in that first wave of Image comics that were supposed to be so extreme, but they let Sam Keith do what he wanted.
Yep.
And make like a fantasy psychological book with a character that kind of looks like a purplish Hulk, but
Right.
Kind
With
of
like spikes on his fist or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's definitely a very like cerebral psychological subtext to the book about trauma and PTSD.
Right. Yeah, and Max doesn't come up quite as often, but I mean, I do know that Spawn is still remembered fondly by a lot of people, because there was kind of a mystique about the show too. Which again, like it was made for older people. It was made for older
It was
fans.
definitely a
but,
mature audience mature audience.
yeah,
cartoon.
but kids found it.
Yeah.
I was in, tail end of elementary school, probably into junior high at that point, and like, I didn't have HBO, so I'd never seen it, but I knew kids that were watching it, and there was, it was just kind of a cool thing. Like, it was on late at night, and it was, and it didn't pull any punches, and it was kind of a cool
Right.
thing to be into.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. All right. So we're going to get into our last category, maybe our best category, along the same lines a little bit. So, this is cartoons made from properties or made from movies that were not geared towards children at all.
Yes.
Not at all.
No.
So,
But somebody thought it would be a good idea for the kids.
For the kids.
so we're going to start with Chuck Norris Karate Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not based on any one property, but just based on an actor that appeared in several rated R action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I did a dive into this to see, because this is before Walker, Texas Ranger. This
Okay.
cartoon
Yep.
is from 1986. It's billed now as a quote unquote mini series and was 5 episodes.
Oh, wow.
But I think that just means is they made a 5-part pilot that didn't get picked up.
Right.
for a series, and then they just would show every once in a while as a 5-part movie.
That's revisionist history right there.
Yeah,
it's a miniseries.
Yeah, miniseries is some retroactive thinking. But when I looked into it, I was just curious because Chuck Norris has become a little more family friendly, especially after Walker Texas Ranger was on Saturday night CBS for ages.
Yeah.
But before this cartoon came out, like he only had a couple of non-rated R movies in his entire like film catalog. Everything was like R-rated action stuff.
Right.
Through the 70s and 80s. So yeah, I mean, it was like a weird thing because so I guess kids were seeing these movies and they thought there was an audience, but I was never allowed to see any of his movies growing up.
No, I mean, I remember, I thought about that too of like, when did have I seen a full Chuck Norris movie?
Yeah.
I always remember it was one of those that like, you'd be like a sleepover, or something like that, where someone would be like, hey.
Right. Like that's how I'd see stuff.
Somebody snuck out a video cassette that they weren't supposed to watch or something. And that was one, we'd see something where it's, highly violent or highly gory or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But the idea, like, to me, I know this one sticks out in my mind more, even though it only lasted for 5 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember seeing a lot of, like, maybe it might have been the comics, because there was a comics that was put out by Star, which is supposed to be the Marvel,
like licensed line.
Yeah, they're licensed, but it was also definitely aimed at kids, because it had like Muppet.
Right. It was like the Alf comic and Spider Ham and all that stuff.
Muppet
was published
Babies.
Under Star. Yeah.
A lot of a lot of the stuff that was left over from the Harvey comics, like the Harvey style comics, were going to there. Like was it Terry and the Planeteers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff. But there was a Karate Commandos comic.
Okay.
And maybe that's why I think it had maybe a little more like staying power, but I guess it just didn't because it only lasted 5 episodes.
Right. Yeah, the description for the series is this fictionalized version of Chuck Norris is a United States government operative with a team of racially diverse warriors known as the Karate Commandos, spelled with a K. Together they fight against the organization Vulture, which is in all caps, but I'm not sure what it stands for. Led by The Claw and his right-hand man, Super Ninja.
Jeez. That's a placeholder name if I've ever heard one.
How did it only last 5 episodes?
I don't know.
Claw was such a popular bad guy name, though, man.
Yeah.
Good grief.
But what's like this one I was thinking, because we later got around 2000, the Jackie Chan adventures.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's an almost like identical situation to me, I think, because I looked up Jackie Chan at that point before 2000. And the only like non-rated R movie that American audiences knew him for was Rush Hour.
Ah.
And everything else, like Rumble in the Bronx is rated R, like Police Story is rated R, like the Hong Kong one he did. And so like Rush Hour was the only thing kids might have seen, normally, unless their parents just let them see lots of rated R stuff. But yeah, it was like on that they went in and were like, let's make Jackie Chan a cartoon. And now it's funny because we do think of Jackie Chan being so family friendly and such a cartoon character himself. Because after that it was Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights and like tons and tons of fun stuff for everyone.
No, that's a good comparison. Yeah.
At the time, he had mostly had an R-rated filmography before his cartoon started.
This is one of those things, though, because this Karate Commandos predates also like the Chuck Norris facts.
Right, the meme.
Right, like all the online memes. It was like, like when Chuck Norris does push-ups, he's not pushing up, he's pushing the earth down. Mm-hmm. Right, like stuff like that. And it does surprise me a little bit that nobody jumped onto that and tried to make some kind of weird, wacky Adult Swim cartoon off of that, right? Like I'm thinking kind of like the Mike Tyson Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
sure.
Right, but with Chuck Norris now.
Right.
Like doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's an easy one, I would think.
Yeah. Get him now, because he's like 90.
Just put him in a tracksuit like Mike Tyson to film the backstage stuff, the cutaways.
About the Jackie Chan stuff. It was just a better cartoon.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan Adventures.
Yeah.
It definitely lasted longer than 5 episodes.
Yeah, it was like three seasons.
It was a nice looking show, too.
Oh, no, great animation. It was, I want to say Masuda did the character designs on that.
It looks like his stuff. It looks a lot like the Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was before he worked on the Batman cartoon.
Yeah. But I remember one episode of Chuck Norris's, in which they blended the live action and the cartoon to make you see how cool he was or whatever, and then he'd do the service announcement at the end. All it took for one episode for me not to like it, but I think they coupled it up with Rambo.
Like they put it back to back?
Okay.
Yeah, like back in the day they used to do the action power hour or whatever the case may be.
Right.
They did that with Chuck Norris and Rambo.
Oh.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue. We'll get into it. Okay, because the second show in this category for kid shows made from rated R properties is Rambo: The Force of Freedom.
Yep.
This is what, 86?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So the only thing I can think of is like maybe this is capitalizing on the popularity of G.I. Joe.
Right. I think
know.
all of this stuff is vaguely.
Yeah, I had not read that anywhere. I'm just guessing. I'm just figuring that G.I. Joe was very popular at that time. And they're like, let's do something else. Well, here's people love Stallone. Let's
yeah. And like even like Chuck Norris Karate Commando is being described by somebody on Wikipedia as racially diverse warriors. Is definitely a G.I. Joe inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. They were trying to recapture that with Chuck Norris and Rambo the same year, both by Ruby Spears, which I should point out. A lot of these are going to be by Ruby Spears. Many of the shows we've mentioned already are by Ruby Spears.
Yeah.
They seem to be the most in the business of taking like weird or inappropriate ideas for kids and making them for kids.
Right.
Because Chuck Norris was, Rambo was, Rubik the Amazing Cube was Ruby Spears.
Wow.
It'll come up 2 more times at least in what we're talking about.
Yep.
But Rambo ran 65 episodes then, far more successful than Chuck Norris Karate Commandos.
Wow.
This one has a description from Wikipedia, I believe, that says, on Colonel Troutman's request, John Rambo leads a special unit called the Force of Freedom against General Warhawk's paramilitary terrorist organization, Savage, in all caps, standing for Specialist Administrators of Vengeance, Anarchy, and Global Extortion.
The only thing missing is determined to rule the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It sounds very G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has anyone actually seen it?
No.
When I was a kid,
Oh, you did? Okay.
I would watch it.
I remember the toy line.
Yeah.
I remember that more vividly than really anything is the toy commercials for it.
Were they like G.I. Joe size, or were they bigger figures? I seem to remember them as being bigger. Am I wrong?
I think they were a little bit bigger, and they might have done like an action thing to it. I may be conflating something there, but I thought they did stuff
like Kung Fu Grip,
like some of the early Toy Biz stuff. Like they would punch or they would kick or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Squeeze their arms and they run.
Cliff, do you remember it being narrated by Don LaFontaine in the opening?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, okay.
I did see you can find clips of this one on YouTube, or at least the open. Lots of explosions and lots of like swinging on a rope through a skyscraper window. Because I do remember the opening talking about like Rambo's fighting in like the cliffs of the city, like skyscrapers, and the cliffs of the jungle, or something like that.
But this wasn't this was like G.I. Joe where no one died, right? This wasn't blood, and this wasn't any of that.
Right, I'm sure there were probably lasers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like his machine gun probably shot like red flashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lasers and parachutes everywhere.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. I wasn't sure. I did think when I was looking up stuff about this, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen the intro on this one. I did find it interesting that you got the mainstays of Peter Cullen and Frank Welker.
Right, both in the cast.
Like doing a lot of characters, actually. So
yeah.
Which is cool. But
did you catch Uncle Phil in the voice acting too?
No, where? Who's he?
He's Edward Turbo Hayes.
Right.
And I think Turbo was one of the main team members of Rambo in the Force of Freedom.
Okay. Yeah, it says an African-American mechanical engineer and race car driver.
Yes.
Yep.
And according to his toy bio, this is all from Wikipedia, he is also a first lieutenant who graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy.
Okay.
That sounds cool. I'd watch a show about him.
Yeah.
It also says a little bit like, what was it? The G.I. Joe Action Pack, like, which is one of the first doll sets. Or maybe like Big Jim, where they went away from just being like typical army man or typical soldier.
Oh,
and
right.
they started to dabble in the idea of like, this guy's
Gimmicks.
like Kung Fu Grip, and
Yeah.
and this guy's got kind of like what they did with the old $6 Million Man dolls, where they basically like had different abilities.
Right.
Okay.
And I think those are designed, like those characters were either designed, the look were designed by Kirby, or Kirby designed the characters all together.
Okay.
Well, I remember the toy too, like looked more like Rambo from the second movie
Mm-hmm.
than he did the first one.
Like long
Right? So
flowing hair.
I mean, that's what's jumping out to me, is that I feel like this is based a lot more on like First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3 and stuff like that than it is the first movie.
Right.
Well,
the first one's almost like a thing unto itself, and then like they did a sequel that almost had nothing to do with
yeah.
The other movie. So
Yeah.
I don't think the animated series addresses that he's a homeless vet with PTSD.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
There's no parades for
which
us.
is what the first movie is about.
Right. Yeah. Talking about how there was no parades, and
Right.
no one remembers us. Yeah. Not really the same.
That does not come up in the cartoon.
No, this is more like bow and arrow with dynamite, right?
Right.
Yes.
If I'm thinking correctly, it's more like that
Yes,
kind of.
You're definitely thinking correctly.
Okay, it's that Rambo. Gotcha.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to maybe the most head scratching
Right.
of this list. RoboCop. RoboCop had a
Yes.
cartoon, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw one
Yeah.
episode for this.
RoboCop had a cartoon that was produced by Marvel Productions,
Mm.
Yes.
which was the Marvel licensing wing at that time that was responsible for helping develop most of their cartoons, but then would occasionally do properties that weren't based on Marvel Comics, like RoboCop was one of them. And interesting stuff around this is that, I mean, the movie is completely hard R, not for kids,
Yeah.
social satire
Yes.
about how capitalism, like unregulated capitalism, ultimately leads to fascism is the message
Yes.
of RoboCop completely.
Tell that to my aunt who let me watch RoboCop when I was 7, because I think she thought it was like Batman.
Oh my!
Right.
That's probably what it felt like.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I was a kid, I didn't notice. I didn't realize how bad it was.
Right.
And then I watched it again older, like in my 20s, and I was horrified.
Yeah.
I was like, how did she let me watch this?
Man, there's no way in the world you should have been watching that at 7.
No.
At 7, did you keep saying I'll buy that for $1? Because that's what
and,
Yeah.
and I like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently there was a push early on because the cartoon went into development like right alongside the movie almost, or at least soon after, that they decided to start pushing this thing to kids. Because again, like, yeah, on first glance, like a cyborg cop sounds like, oh, that sounds like it's a cartoon.
Mhm.
Sort of like that should be for kids.
It's superhero-y sounding
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh,
I get
definitely.
it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So they pushed for it to be the cartoon, and then we're pushing for the sequels to be also like cartoon level, like PG.
Mm.
And it did not quite happen initially. So they actually brought on Frank Miller
Yep.
to write RoboCop 2, comic books Frank Miller. And he, if I'm reading what happened right, was he wrote a first draft for RoboCop 2 that became RoboCop 3.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And he wrote a second draft of RoboCop 2 that became RoboCop 2 and was still R-rated. So you had like 2 R-rated movies with a cartoon in the middle, and then a PG-13 film after was eventually when they got it PG-13ified. But it was some weird choices.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because if kids are watching that Saturday morning cartoon and still want to go see RoboCop 2, it's still rated R.
Oh, yeah. There's some stuff in RoboCop 2 that's really disturbing. So
Right.
Yeah.
not that RoboCop isn't much better, but there's still stuff that's in RoboCop 2 that's really disturbing. So
Yeah.
I remember the toy line too, because I had a bunch of those
right.
as a kid, like the RoboCop action, because it was a neat visual and stuff like that. And I remember, but you remember it had like caps?
Yes.
Like when you would have like the little cap guns, like the little strip with like,
Right.
I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what this like exploding powder, like flash powder.
Flint powder or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
remember.
like you would get like a roll of that, and like the RoboCop action figure had a little slot in his back where you could load those in.
And then make
just
it like
pop
you're
these
firing.
caps off to make gun sounds.
Yeah.
Right. Like that there's no way that would fly now, obviously.
No.
There's no way that would
No.
fly now. But like,
No.
I don't even know how that flew then.
Right.
Oh no,
Mhm.
that was a thing. Like, oh my God, there were so many toys that had you load those caps in,
Yeah.
and over time they became bigger, so to make a louder pop. I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody showed them the error of their ways by blowing their hands off or their fingers off
Right.
or whatever. But that used to be. I remember it used to be a thing.
I did think it was interesting when I was looking at the Wikipedia stuff for it that Rich Fogel was involved in RoboCop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the many shows that he was involved in. He developed it. He was part of the development
Rich
team for
Fogel
that.
from Justice League, from the
Yeah.
Justice League
Okay.
cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to mention before we moved away from it that he also wrote a couple episodes of Wildcats too.
Okay.
Oh, did he? That I didn't know.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, he said he's been around forever, but still,
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was involved with RoboCop at all. But again, that makes me understand it more. That like they would think it's more of a superhero show since he primarily worked on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
This is again to me like kind of the Mortal Kombat thing. Like I can get where they would think we have something here for kids. We'll just ignore this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think the other thing too is it's interesting visually. They went with the Cylon eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like
another
the
one.
light up.
Yeah, that I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of interesting too. The idea that they went with that
Right.
as maybe a visual cue that it wasn't the same kind of RoboCop, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I was surprised it ran for it had what 40 episodes.
Wow, did it really?
Yeah, under the name what?
RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop Alpha Commando, right? Yeah.
That was the second show. It got a second series, like in the late 90s.
So that's the second series. Then
Yeah,
what was
Alpha Commando is the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one that got 40 episodes then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the original one got 13.
Ah, okay.
How'd they go from 13 to 40? Wow.
Yeah, and and a lot of people don't even know about the one that went longer, which is the funny part.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, who knows? Cartoons are weird, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, when it was on the first cartoon, like Marvel would have a Saturday morning animation block under their Marvel production things that would usually show reruns of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they showed the Pride of the X-Men pilot for the original attempt at an X-Men cartoon before it didn't get picked up. Would
Right.
run in that sometimes. And then it would run RoboCop or Dino Riders, all under the Marvel banner.
Right.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you brought up Pride of the X-Men though, because I think I read researching for this show that they took the money from one of the episodes of RoboCop,
Okay.
right? Like they essentially like ordered X number of episodes, right? But budgeted one extra one, and then that extra episode became the money for the Pride of the X-Men pilot.
Huh.
For them to turn around and do. Yeah.
Okay, that pilot looks great, man. That's some good animation in that pilot.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I love that pilot.
is like an intro for other shows, but it's the whole episode for that pilot.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so great. Yeah, we'll try and find it on YouTube or something and put it on letmeknowhowitis.com. It's awesome. Also, because I want to see it again. All right. So we will be moving on. Another show about police.
Okay.
Rated R for different reasons. Police
Right.
Academy.
Yes.
Also a cartoon.
Which I'd almost forgotten about that it existed, but then I did remember. And this one's a little interesting too. So the franchise, by the time the cartoon started, the franchise was mostly PG,
Okay.
but it started as rated R.
Right.
Police Academy 1 is rated R. Police Academy 2 got a PG-13 rating, but from reports that they squeaked by it. Like they cut one thing that would have changed it from R to PG-13 to get the PG-13. And then after that, they started trying to squeak by with PG because kids liked Police Academy.
Right.
But even the later PG ones were definitely a little blue. Like I remember watching them when I was a kid and them still being like raunchy screwball comedies of just what they could get away with and still get PG in the 80s.
Right.
But the origins of it are definitely like raunchy rated R comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't think the cartoon, like they didn't even get Michael Winslow for the cartoon.
Oh, really?
Then why even bother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they did. I didn't see him in the cast listing. They might have had somebody as a character, but not him. But like, you got to get Michael Winslow.
Sure.
That was like the one thing I could see it being like, yeah, of course it's a cartoon. Michael Winslow's doing his voices, which they probably did have somebody doing that character and doing voices.
Right.
But not Michael Winslow.
Well, at least though, I mean, like they can kind of keep like the genre the same, right? Like they it's not such a departure to do a comedy into a kid's comedy.
Right.
Right. It's just
leave out the dirty jokes.
Yeah, just leave out that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
It's another. I mean, that's the funny thing about looking at all of the shows on this list. There is on some level, as weird as they are.
Yeah.
I can get the justification or the attempt.
Right. You can see a thread.
Yeah. So, all right. So we have now Toxic Crusaders, made from the Toxic Avenger character. Which these are Corman movies, right? Roger Corman.
Mm-hmm.
They're Trauma.
Oh, okay.
No, you're right. That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're Trauma Studios, and if anybody knows Trauma, they know Trauma is not for children.
No.
Right.
And I even
James Gunn used to work for Trauma
Mm.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
in his early career, like before he did Slither, because Slither is definitely like a spiritual successor to Trauma,
Mhm. Yeah.
but with less of their excess.
Right.
So more of their, like a more audience-friendly version
Right.
than Trauma, because Trauma is schlock.
Yeah.
Trauma is 100% unapologetic,
Right.
raunchy, disgusting schlock
Right.
in all of their movies. And just a side story, when I was in college, Trauma, the president of Trauma, Lloyd Kaufman, came to my college to focus test whatever movie they were working on at the time. And I remember being astounded that they focus tested anything. And I'm like, wait, are they just like looking for like reactions to see like, oh, these people weren't disgusted enough. Like, we got to make it worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Was my thinking at the time. But I did meet Lloyd Kaufman and he was super nice. He
Well,
was
that's
a
good.
very nice man.
Okay.
It is funny to see like all this stuff that comes out of his mind.
Right.
He's like so twisted but he's a very nice man. He was very personable. But yeah, so like they decided Toxic Avenger again, like sounds kind of like a superhero.
Yeah.
The movie's kind of like a superhero, but he's
Mhm.
not a good guy
Right.
in the movies. He's definitely a bit of a monster in his raunchy, gross out action comedy, whatever it was
Yeah.
supposed to be. But I think like an elephant in the room for a lot of these, especially in this time period, because we're talking 1990 here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think 91 maybe or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in this time period, the elephant in the room is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And everything was chasing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Sure.
at this point in time, which again, like itself has a little bit of an odd origin for being the like huge hit kids show that it was.
Yeah.
Like its comic book was not necessarily aimed at kids. It was kind of like an image level. Like they were going for like that older teen in their original source material. But everything after that's chasing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Swamp Thing. I think the Swamp Thing cartoon that we talked about before was chasing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're like, well, we've got a mutant character. Like,
Right.
let's just have him fight other mutant characters.
Right.
And Toxic Crusaders was exactly that.
I think even the same toy company as Ninja Turtles did the Toxic Crusaders line.
Oh, Toxic Crusaders? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
I think
Yeah.
it was Playmates for both of them.
Yeah. Playmates
Yeah.
definitely did both of them.
And yeah, like they put Toxie, as they called him, instead of Toxic
Mhm.
Avenger, in like a group of 4 other mutants, like fighting against polluters,
Right.
because that was the big villain of the day
Yep.
in the early 90s.
Which again, like not that much of a stretch. I get it. I get
Yeah.
get the through line there,
Mhm.
Right.
you know. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also, but I also see the justification of sort of like almost the subgenre of like kids toys, especially geared towards boys, of like the gross out stuff. Like I'm thinking like
Yeah.
Garbage Pail Kids and stuff like that.
Right.
Like this fits kind of perfectly with that.
Which Garbage Pail Kids was created by Art Spiegelman,
Who you might know from
from winning the Pulitzer Prize for Mouse,
Yes.
the graphic novel, the World War II memoir graphic novel. And also did the In the Shadow of No Towers after the attack on 9/11. But yeah, he was the creator of Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh man,
that's my fun Garbage Pail Kids fact.
I love being a geek just for stuff like that. I love it so much.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely all chasing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, the one I'll throw in as an aside, also chasing that is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Which the movie itself was actually only PG back in 1978. But 78 PG was probably kind of hard because they didn't have PG-13 back then. So I don't know what they got away with in 78 PG.
Right.
But yeah, like, again, I think it was somebody trained to chase Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they're like, oh, like we got these evil tomatoes that come to life and attack people. That's kind of like it. They're kind of like mutants.
It's such a weird decision to make a cartoon about that, which is, it's like, do kids... What kid knew about Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Right.
At that point, right?
Yeah. That was like collecting dust on the video store shelf.
Yeah. Like it's the weirdest one out of like this whole group. I'm like I said, like I can kind of build a justification for a lot of these. Like, you know, NFL wants younger viewers, right? Like like Toxic Avengers sort of did. This one I don't get. Like,
yeah, the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes people weren't like still out there marketing.
Yeah,
trying to be like, how can we get new people into Killer Tomatoes?
Yeah, this weird thing that's like intended to be sort of like a riff on like the 1950s, like the Blob and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's like even that stuff doesn't strike me as like, you know, kids are into that stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it's funny you said that, Clifton, because that's exactly what they were looking for was, well, one person saw it that way when I was watching a couple of YouTube videos based upon the thought process of why rated R movies would go into that genre is because they they saturated the market. Like adults have seen it, the adults that want to see it have seen it, so they're not dumping any more into it, but they still think it's a great idea. So, like for example, what you said earlier with Toxic Avengers. At the heart of it, it's a message of don't judge people on how they look.
Yeah.
So they took away everything that made it rated R and got to the heart of the story and market. And what you said, combined with the craze of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they throw their hat into the mix to see what was going to happen. And crazy enough, you take out all the stuff that kids aren't supposed to see, and they'll gravitate. and plus, added to the fact of they're not supposed to see it, and they remember that they're not supposed to see it. So as soon as you make it a cartoon, they're gonna rush to it just because of the R-rated history. At least that made more logical sense as to why they would push it, and it gives them more money to the children's market.
Right.
Yeah. So again, it's at the end of the day, it's greed.
Yep.
So many weird ones. So many weird.
I did think it was odd that they got that John Astin actually does the voice. Like I looked at the voice cast because I was interested. I'm like, okay, John Astin, you know, that's, you know, Gomez Adams.
Yeah.
You know, the Riddler for a couple episodes of Batman in 66. You know, he's great as Harry's dad on Night Court. I mean, but it's still the idea that he would do this kids cartoon is still.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was funny. And then the other one that I noticed was in season 1, Boyd Kirkland was a producer.
Oh.
Okay.
So
he's still,
you know,
another Batman animated series alum, X-Men Evolution. Yeah. He was great. Yeah, I was a big fan of his stuff. Like I knew his name for a while. He directed Batman Sub-Zero, which I think is, you know, the more underrated of all the straight to videos. I think that they did of the animated series. I love that one. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
I think that either just left HBO Max or just came to HBO Max.
Okay,
so if it's still there, you can watch it there.
Hopefully, it just came, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's taken off.
Yeah,
it gets no love, that movie. It's so good. All right, so before we start wrapping it up, though, let's have some fun, and I'm gonna say, what other rated R property do you think would have made an absurdly ridiculous children's cartoon? All right, everybody got that? Rated R property that would make a ridiculous cartoon.
Got it.
But first, If you like the show, you can check out all of our episodes on YouTube and letmeknowhowitis.com. Just please, however you find us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Finally, if there's anything you would like us to discuss, be sure to leave a topic suggestion on Twitter or in the comments. Our Twitter handle is our show's initials, LMKHII. All right. Rated R property to be made into a kid's show. Go.
Oh, I have 2. Can I do 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My initial was Fight Club. except throw some ninjas in it, and kids are going to be there all day and day.
All right.
Okay.
And the second one, I'm not sure if it was rated R or not because I can't remember the rating. Was The Matrix?
It was.
Okay. Yeah, it was.
It was rated R.
Oh my gosh, easy. Oh, kids would eat that up.
That was on my maybe list for sure. Yeah, it's the most like, you know, not rated R-rated movie ever. Like,
Right.
it's for F-bombs, really. The violence isn't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Matrix in our episode movie years last time.
Mhm.
And Zach was saying he couldn't understand why it didn't gross higher in the top 10, and it was because it was rated R. Like rated R movies just didn't gross that high back then. That was it.
Yeah.
That's changed since. But at the time, an R rating would keep you out of the highest gross.
Yeah. But no, that's a good pick, Tommy, for sure. Both of them.
Both are good.
Yeah. All right, who's next?
I got one that it's got an obvious in, and that is Caddyshack.
Oh, I love Caddyshack.
Because it's got the gopher. It's already got a cartoon character right in there.
Well, 3 if you include Bill Murray and Dangerfield.
Yeah. So obviously it would be that, but it would focus on the gopher.
Okay.
Like the gopher would be the main character in the cartoon.
You have like a pitch ready. You have an outline ready
from a
for
Caddyshack animated series. Not Caddyshack 2 though. That's a different thing.
Because Ted Knight would be the heavy, right? They'd always try to pull something over on him.
Yeah.
And Spalding.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
He'd be the Elmer Fudd of this dynamic.
I see it. I want this now. Please make it.
And the other is American Pie.
Oh, you have 2. Okay.
Oh.
But it's about an actual teenage pie, like anthropomorphic pie.
Oh, okay. Wow. Jeez.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right, Frank, what's yours? You have 2 also?
I don't have 2. I would have thought of 2, but we only talked about 1. Maybe I'll come up with one real quick. My first one is Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors.
Oh, that was mine.
but
it could work. It could definitely work.
But the problem, the my solution for it isn't so much that it's Freddy hunting them down or fighting Freddy. It's more along the lines of the Mr. T cartoon.
Okay.
Where like Freddy is kind of like their guardian, and they go from town to town solving crimes.
What?
He better have like a little dog in the shredded sweater.
Yes. Of course.
Who is he stopping?
Bad guys. Guys that are trying to counter Tommy. Guys that are trying to counterfeit money, or trying to
polluters.
Yeah, or guys that are it could sort of lean into Scooby Doo like territory when it's like I'll show you what it's really to be scary. That kind of thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's my one. But like I see that open with the Freddy dog and then Freddy and then like all the kids.
Had the kids say, "We love you, Freddy." At the end,
of course, the kids got and it starts off with the little girls doing the jump rope and singing the tune, and then it immediately goes them in like a van, and they're on their way.
They got to have the van.
We love you, Freddy, at the end. Like it's the Frosty the Snowman Christmas special.
Yes. That's my pitch. That's what I'm going
that
with.
That will weird so many parents out with that.
Yeah.
You took you took Nightmare on Elm Street. That was literally my one. So now I'm just gonna go because it was I'm just gonna. What's the most absurd one I can think of? Let's go with it. So I'm just going to say now Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Then just go ahead and make it zany kids at the camp, but like Jason's their friend.
Is he a camp counselor?
He's the camp cook.
Like Jason's their old pal, and they have a rivalry with a rival camp.
Speaking of Bill Murray, you could smash together Meatballs and Friday the 13th together.
I thought about Meatballs.
So when you get to it just doesn't matter scene, it's there. You pan around the room as Bill Murray's leading this chant, and there's there's Jason, like everything's cool because he's just one of the camp counselors, but really, don't get too close to him. So
No.
I thought you were gonna say something like Saw. Really?
ooh,
just and then wow, and I'm thinking about it now. It's narrated by the puppet, but it's
Jigsaw.
yeah, Jigsaw, and he's telling cautionary tales. Or I mean, it's just
It's like Tales from the Crypt.
Right.
yes. Oh no, what was the one on Nickelodeon? In which
Are you afraid of the dark?
yes, make it like that, but make Jigsaw like tell the cautionary tale.
wow.
You guys all have futures. These are great.
Yes, make it happen.
All right. That was fun. This is a
Yes.
fun one. Okay. All right, listeners. Which shows did we forget? Hit us up on Twitter or in the comments. Let us know what we forgot. Also, as always, we'll post links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com. Just please remember to like us and follow us on social media. Thanks for being here. We will see you next week.